In this sound design video, you'll learn how to create a whoosh sound effect that's perfect for your song's transitions, inspired by great music producers like Zedd. Here's a preview. And you're gonna be able to create your own variations of that effect with only a few drum samples and some stock effects from your DAW, no matter which one you use. Hey, how are you? I'm Thales, pop music producer, and even though there are specific plugins to make the whoosh effect, like I'll show you later in this video, I think it's fun to design them from scratch. And we're gonna do that in 4 steps. Let's jump into my DAW and see what's going on. Alright, so these are the tracks that I consider the minimum for making an interesting whoosh effect that encompasses the full frequency spectrum from subs to high frequencies. 4 tracks, and some of them are grouped up. The 4 steps to achieving this sound are: first, reverse a snare sample; second, reverse a crash cymbal sample; third, layer a sub-oscillator; and fourth, create some basic automation on the volume, panning, and pitch to emulate a Doppler effect. Let's do the whole process step by step together, reversing the snare sample. So first, check your sample library for any snare sample, preferably one that has some good low-end content, like this random snare I picked from my library, which has a good content at around 100 to 200 Hz. That will give our effect a nice body. Then take that snare sample and reverse it. If you're in Ableton Live, just double click the snare clip, then click these arrows to reverse the sample. Now pick whatever reverb effect you have. I'm using Valhalla Vintage Verb. It's a personal preference, but it could be any reverb, like the ones that come with your DAW. Add this reverb to your snare track and make sure it has a nice tail. I just picked the first preset I found, increased the decay a bit, and it already sounded cool. I left the mix knob at 100% reverb, but you could use a drier setting. That would just make your final result punchier. Now, resample this snare with the reverb because we're going to reverse it again. In Ableton Live, just freeze and flatten the track. Once you flattened it, duplicate the track because we're going to use the snare in 2 different positions. The first layer will stay just like it already is. The second layer will be reversed, and we're only going to use a small part of it to anticipate the first layer, which will make the sweep a bit longer. So try to align the loudest parts of the waveform, the transient, but don't worry about getting it perfectly aligned. Then we're gonna cut the second layer short and add a fader to smoothen the rise a little. Here's what it sounds like so far. This is already a good effect. You could go ahead and use it in your song and it would sound cool. But let's make it fancier. Let's add the crash cymbal layer. This one is super easy. Just find any crash cymbal you may have, like this random crash I picked, and align it with the transient. Then duplicate the clip, reverse one of them, and move it to connect the samples. Then shorten the one you reversed and draw a nice and quick fade. You may want to add reverb or not, whatever sounds best for you. In this case, I'm using a hall preset and the mix knob is set at 50%. Let's hear it. This layer gives the effect a nice sparkle. The next layer is the bass pitch bomb, which will give your whoosh effect a lot more power, but if you're not using headphones or a good speaker, you won't hear this. Create a MIDI track with any synthesizer on a simple sine wave preset. If you're in Ableton Live, you can just select Operator, Components, and pick the sine waveform preset. Then draw a long MIDI note at around C1, or it could be in the key of your song. Then we'll modulate the pitch. Easy way to do it, click Transpose, turn automation mode on, then go from -24 semitones to the original pitch, align with the transient, then drop the pitch again, but at a slower rate. So it goes up in pitch real quick, then it drops slow. We're also gonna draw a volume automation that's very similar to the pitch automation, quickly hitting the peak volume at the transient, then dropping slowly. This will give the impression that the bass is passing by the listener. And the following step is the cherry on the cake, the Doppler effect. But first, can you subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this video, and write down in the comments below what you'd like to learn next? If I know the answer, I'll record a video for you. Sound good? Alright, let's apply the Doppler effect to the previous layers. And if you don't remember what a Doppler effect is, try to think of a time you were driving and you heard a truck hitting the honk as it passed by you. You know what I mean now, right? The honk sound gets louder and higher in pitch as it approaches you, then pitch and volume drop as it drives away. We're gonna group these layers up so we can process them together, but we won't include the bass layer in this group. We'll leave the subfrequencies in the center. First, we'll draw a panning automation so the effect starts at the left side and crosses to the right side. Here's what mine looks like. It starts at 30 left, quickly goes to the center when the effect reaches maximum loudness, then keeps moving to 30 right. You can customize this curve however you want. Make it go from right to left, or from the center to the sides, or sides to center. Just get creative. And I'll reduce the stereo width a little bit so this is not too wide and we can perceive the panning movement better. The next automation is volume. To emphasize the approximation effect, we're gonna make sure the volume increases sharply when the whoosh gets to the center. Here's what my automation looks like. It starts at minus 2.5 dB, then peaks at 2, then drops again. Now it's time to draw a pitch shifting curve to resemble the Doppler effect. So the whole thing is going from a higher pitch as it approaches the listener, to a normal pitch when it gets to the listener, to a lower pitch after it passes by. I like to do it with the frequency shifter effect, but you can get it done with any pitch shifting plugin. This is what the pitch shifting does. Here's an extreme example where the pitch starts at 500 Hz above the normal pitch and finishes at 500 Hz below the normal pitch. But I like to use this effect in a subtle way. I like to start at plus 50 Hz, then go all the way down to 0, which is the normal pitch, then continue falling for another 50 Hz. It's easy to overdo this one, so I like to keep the frequency shifter range between 100 Hz and 200 Hz. If you want to make this more noticeable, just use a high frequency number, like the first example. It will sound like an object falling really fast. To make the passing by sensation even more noticeable, I like to have an equalizer sweep. So we hear more high frequencies as the sound gets closer to us, and we filter them out as it moves away. That's how it works in real life sounds too. We don't hear as many high frequencies from sound sources that are far away from our ears. High frequencies don't travel too far. So pick your favorite equalizer, add a low pass filter, and create a sweep that opens up at the center. The right frequency to start the sweep depends entirely on your samples, but a good starting point would be at around 2 kHz, quickly going all the way up to around 12 kHz, and slowly back to around 7 kHz. You can start there and tweak according to your taste. Here's what the whoosh effect sounds like. At this point, you can get creative with adding any effect you like. For example, you could add distortion or any modulation effect like a chorus, a flanger, a phaser, a tremolo, a delay to give it a different spice. Or you can even add more layers with different reverbs and create a more complex sounding whoosh effect. To me, this one already sounds good, and I'm actually going to use this effect we just made together in my next song. Feel free to use it in your songs too. Customize it to match your production and have fun. By the way, there are plugins designed to create this effect if you're looking to invest and save time. The ones I've seen so far are called Whoosh and Motion Designer by UVI, and Whoosh by Tone Stern. They both seem really cool, even though I haven't tried them since I've been creating my whooshes manually. Hey, I think you're also going to like this video that will appear in your screen in a second. You'll learn how to create a flutter vocal effect like Billie Eilish. How about that? In the meantime, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you get the next tutorials, and even like this video if you're having a good time. Thanks for hanging out. I'm Thales, and we'll talk soon.